Finally, the time is here. You're going to get out of your apartment or get out of your rental property that you are renting from landlords and apartment complexes. You don't have to pay pet fees. You don't have to have people come and spray for your bugs whenever they want to. Come and look at your house whenever they want to, and you get to do what you want when you want. But when it comes to actually buying a house, you need to make sure that you have all the boxes checked before you actually buy a house. And what I mean by that is there's multiple different things that nobody really thinks about until they're actually in the moment of buying a house. Or sometimes you don't even think about it until after you already bought the house and then something happens and you say, oh, I didn't know I had to do this. And so in today's video, I'm going to be going over how to budget and save for a house and things that you also need to make sure you have marked and checked off when you buy your house. When it comes to owning a house, I believe that it is still a huge part of the American dream. A lot of people online or in real estate or investors nowadays, some of them are saying, don't own houses, don't buy a house, only own it to rent them out. You need to rent yourself because you don't have an asset that's weighing over your head with all these different costs that you have to pay for upkeep and all these different things. But in my opinion, that's just dumb because I want to have the freedom in order to actually live and do what I want in my house when I want to do it. And when you rent, you don't have that option. You always have someone over your back in control of how you're going to live, when you're going to live, and what you're actually going to be able to do in your house. Because you're always going to have more fees. They can raise your rent on you. They can add different things to your lease that you don't like or don't appreciate. They can come and just spray for bugs and give you a 24-hour notice. They can enter your place and say, we had suspicious activity in here. We need to make sure that, your lease, your apartment is good or your house is good. I need to check for something. I need to come and check on the water heater, enter your unit or enter your house and just get to look at everything, scope everything out. And to me, I hate that feeling. I do not like the feeling of knowing that someone gets to come into my house basically whenever they want because I don't own it. I don't get to do whatever I want to the house because I don't own it. And so to me, the American dream is being able to still buy and live in your own house. But there's many things that people don't think about when actually budgeting and saving for a house. The first thing that people don't think about is your closing cost, your down payment, and the inspections, and how to actually negotiate a contract in real estate. And so what I mean by this is a lot of people say, yeah, I have to have a down payment. I have to have 3%. Or maybe you're going to do first-time home buyer. You're going to get a little bit of grant money or, they're a down payment assistance. Well, that's awesome, but you still have to have the closing costs. And the average closing cost can be anywhere from $3,000 all the way up to $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000, just depending on what house you're actually buying and where it is. And maybe there's in the contract, the sellers are going to pay some of the closing costs, and that's awesome. And you just want to get your foot in the door. So you know about the down payments and you know about the closing costs. Well, did you know about inspections? Because inspections is a huge part of buying a house. Inspections can be anywhere from termite, roof, just a general house inspection where they go over every single crack, cranny, counter, everything. They check your water. They do all kinds of inspections, and that stuff costs money. And it costs money for a good reason, because if you don't get a good inspection, then what if you buy a house, you completely sign the contract, you close, and all of a sudden you get to your house and you say, well, this is broken, or this is not right, or my heater don't even work. Well, you should have got a better inspection. So it's worth it to pay for an inspection, but people don't really think about that. People try to cheap out on an inspection because they don't want to spend the money. But in reality, if you don't invest money into that inspection, get a good inspector to actually come and look over everything, then that might actually set you back thousands and thousands until you're really sinking, because you don't even have the money to be able to afford repairs on the house that you just bought because you skipped out on a good inspection or didn't get one at all. And I know people that completely will skip the inspection, which I think is absolutely insane. So the first thing is make sure you know the cost up front. Just before you even sign and close, you need to have the down payment money ready. you need to have inspection money, and you need to have the closing cost money. The next hidden cost, have you thought about insurance? Insurance can go up all the time. Every year my insurance goes up because I live in a state that has a lot of natural disasters. Tornadoes, wildfires, earthquakes, all of that. So my insurance keeps going up every single year. So yeah, I think my mortgage is great. Good mortgage. This is what I pay every single year. It's a fixed cost. But in reality, if your insurance goes up, your escrow needs to recover that money. And so they'll actually come and say, hey, we got to up your mortgage payment to make up for that loss of insurance that we don't have since they're charging you more. And then also property taxes. If your house increases in value, then usually the county that you live in will say, hey, we are going to charge you more property tax because your house is worth more money. And so if your property tax goes up, which it usually does on a home sale, because usually the person before you bought it for less than what you're buying it for, then the property tax is actually going to go up after that first year of owning the house. And so you have to be prepared in order to actually have the money for that property tax. A lot of times the escrow will, get that money, pay the property tax, and then they'll come back to you and say, hey, also your property tax increased, so we got to raise that mortgage a little bit more along with the insurance because both of them went up. They're not always going to go up every single year, but when they do, you have to be prepared. Those are costs that you have to be prepared and know for when you actually buy a house. Most people just say, hey, this is my mortgage, $1,000. And then all of a sudden that next year comes by, the insurance and the property tax goes up, and they say, wait, why is my mortgage at $1,500? This is horrible. They're cheating me. This is not right. It's like my lease going up when I'm renting. This isn't right. I own this house. But that's actually the case. And you need to be mentally prepared and financially prepared for those situations when they do occur. Other things that you need to make sure when you're buying a house, and this one to me is actually the most important because the other ones are up front. You need a down payment. You need closing costs. Yeah, you might not know how much you need right now, but if you're working with an agent, if you're working with people, the bank, the mortgage companies, they will tell you everything that you will have to have. The thing that really, in my opinion, is something that you don't account for is just hidden repairs that you have to do on the house. When you're renting, for example, they come and spray for bugs. If your water heater goes out, they'll come, you call maintenance, hey, my water heater went out, can you come fix it? They just send someone up, they fix it. That's all included in your rent. But when you own the house, it's different. For example, our water heater went out the first going into the second year of actually owning our house. That wasn't something that I had really thought about. I mean, I knew of it. And then once the water went cold, I was like, I don't want to take cold showers. Well, before in our apartment, I literally would just call the maintenance man and be like, hey, our water heater has a leak. Can you come fix it? They just came in, rolled in a new water heater, set it up. Perfect. But when my water went cold at my house, I had to repair that. So I had to go out and shop for that. I had to go and buy it, and I had to pay someone to get the permits and then install it for me. And that costs a lot of money. That's a lot of money out of pocket that you have to spend. Another thing, what if you do have spiders? What if you do have bugs? Yeah, you can spray by yourself, but before, the apartment complex or the landlord would just send someone in to come spray. So now you are responsible for spraying the bugs, spraying the pest. What about your roof? Roofs are expensive. A lot of times they get bundled up in your insurance. You have roof insurance, and that could be 1% to 2% of the value of your house for a deductible that you would have to pay if one hailstorm comes over your house. When you're in an apartment, you don't have to think about that. When you're leasing a building, a house or something like that, you don't have to think about those costs. And if it hails, it hails. Oh, well, that's on the owner. But when you actually have the house, you own the house, wind damage, hail, all these different things you have to pay a deductible for. So you have one storm that comes in, dumps a bunch of hail, all of a sudden you need a new roof, and say your house is worth $200,000 and you have a 2% deductible, that means you're going to pay $4,000 to get that replaced. Those are the hidden costs that I'm talking about that most people don't think of. It's things that obviously we hope and we pray that it doesn't happen to our house. We hope everything goes smooth, but that's just part of home ownership. You're going to have things that break. You're going to have to repair things, and you're going to want to keep your house nice so that it continues to appreciate and is that appreciating asset where you actually make money over time on that asset. And so when it comes to actually saving or how to actually budget in order to buy a house, I think the first thing you need to start doing is actually get used to spending the money that you would on a mortgage. For example, the average mortgage in the United States is $2,715. Most people that are renting are not renting for that much. An apartment, at least where I live, it's like $1,000 to $1,500. But all of a sudden you buy a nicer house, now you're looking at $2,715. Actually, I know people that bought $200,000 houses in the market that we're in currently, and they're spending around $1,900 on their mortgage, which is a lot more. It's significantly more than what they're spending on rent in $800-900. And so you have to be able to actually budget for that mortgage payment. It's not just your rental anymore. It's your whole house. It's the insurance. It's the property tax. It's your PMI if you're not putting down a big enough down payment. All these things get lumped into this mortgage, and it's not just, hey, I'm here, I'm staying here. This is my rent. No, this is like your house. So you have to pay all of that, and that really makes it go up in price. Also depends on your interest rate. If you have worse credit, or maybe it's just the economy's just not doing as good and the rates are a lot higher, you're going to be spending more money in interest, meaning your mortgage payment goes up. That's just different things that you have to think about. And so, very beginning, if you have a budget in mind, I want to spend $200,000 and the max mortgage I want to pay per month is $2,000. Well, you're going to work with a mortgage company. You're going to work with a real estate agent who's going to be able to show you houses that you can afford with that monthly payment. And your mortgage company is going to work with you to say, this is how much house you can afford. So you're going to say, hey, I want to buy a house. This is what my budget would be. This is my income. This is how much I make. This is my expenses. This is my other debt. And then you're going to get approved for a certain amount. Then that dollar amount will be what your real estate agent will usually use in order to look for houses that you can actually afford. You'll give them preferences, say, I want this or I like this, and they'll do the best they can to work with you to give you what you want in a price range that you can actually afford. So when it comes to that, now you know I can afford $2,000 a month. So if my rent is $900 or $1,000 or whatever it is, make sure that every single month you're saving the difference. And what that's doing is making it to where you're mentally shifting to be able to afford that mortgage before you're actually thrown into it. This allows you to actually look at your budget and say, okay, $2,000 goes towards this. Now I have the rest of my budget to work with and actually pay for all my other stuff. Can I actually afford that? And you should be able to if you get approved, but in most cases, a lot of people don't know how to actually budget and they get shell shocked because then they get put in a house, they pay a bigger mortgage, but they want to spend like they used to before, but they don't have the money. And so you need to make sure that you are saving that money ahead of time just so that you can get on the right track mentally with your budget. And then on top of that, you need to take that money and you need to save it for closing costs. You need to save it for down payments. You need to save it for inspections. And you need to have an emergency fund, in my opinion, before you even buy a house. And the reason I say this is because I've actually met people that they buy a house, they spend all this money on closing costs and their down payment and their inspections. They're in the door. They had enough money to get into the door, and then they don't have any money to even be able to get furniture. Or maybe something happens and a hailstorm or a windstorm comes through and they need a new roof instantly right after they bought the house. Well, they don't have an extra $5,000 because they went and spent it all on closing costs, inspections, and their down payment. That is not a fun situation to be in. Or they get in and they're like, oh, I need a new water heater. That's $1,500 or $2,000, or I need a new AC unit, or I need a new heater. It's wintertime and I just bought this house and I don't have a heater because it already broke. Okay? Do you have the money saved up? If you don't, then that just is really bad and that sucks. And you do not want to be in that situation. And so save the money for your closing costs. Live like you're already paying the mortgage while you're looking for a house, just so mentally you can get prepared to see what the finances will actually look like so that you're not getting yourself in a situation that you can't afford and ultimately being house broke. If you like this video, comment down below, what are you doing to budget for a house? And if you don't know how to budget, say budget, because I want to put a template down where you'll sign up through your email and I'll send you a budget so that you can start working on actually being able to buy a house. I'm Curtis Rylant. And if you like this video, subscribe, comment, and like. And until next time, guys, remember, you can do all things through him that give you strength. Peace. Ultimately, I just want to help people be able to get into a house. Have that American dream of having your family move into a house, somewhere to call yours. Be proud of it. That's your house. I want to be able to help people get there. There's a lot of financial mistakes that people actually make that don't allow them to ever get there. And if they do get there, they're house poor and they really can't afford to do anything else in life. I don't want that to be you. So comment down below budget and I will make a budget template and have that link down there where you'll just sign it through an email and you can start working on your budget so that you can afford and buy a house and have that American dream, because it is an amazing feeling. I'm Curtis Ryland. Like and subscribe, and remember, until next time, you can do all things through him that give you strength. Peace.